This morning we are going to conduct another interview in the series of Bang sailors. This morning I'm with Mr. Bill Cromie, a former electrician's mate chief, submarine service, who was stationed on board the Bang for quite a number of years. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Good. Let's start out by asking you, how many years were you on the boat?
I was on the boat 8.5 years.
8.5 years. Now, that time on the boat, did you have any particular nickname that the crew gave you?
Yes, they, after I was on there for a couple of years, they hung the name of Billy Bang on me.
So you're known as Billy Bang.
That's what they call me.
Well, how do you feel about that nickname?
Well, actually, I'm pretty proud of it.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. From the time that you were on the Bang,
I guess I was on there probably 9 or 10 months, almost a year, and I slowly realized it was a unique experience.
were you already wearing your silver dolphins at that
I
point?
certainly was, yes.
So did you have to go through a requalification
Oh,
program?
yes, I had to requalify on the Bang. It didn't take me long. I think within 2 weeks I was senior controlman again.
Just for the record, would you kind of identify what senior controllerman is and does?
Well, that's the person that controls the main motors and the shafts back in the maneuvering room.
So you're a propulsion specialist.
Yes.
During the course of being on the boat, we talk about other crew members and how good the crew was and everything. I'm sure there had to be some humorous times on board the boat. Do you remember in particular a few of those humorous times?
Well, there were so many. Well, the one I remember that I enjoyed the most is we pulled into Piraeus, Greece, and the captain had a car rented, and he had the yeoman for a duty driver, and he came up in civilian clothes, he had a cigar, and he was walking across the brow, and he noticed no rat guard on number 1 line.
Now, describe what a rat guard is.
A rat guard is a concave shaped 2-piece thing that goes across the line. It prevents a rat from coming on board from the pier.
Okay.
This captain had a short fuse. Threw a cigar in a drink, ordered the topside watch to get the duty seaman topside who's responsible for this rat guard. And the reason they didn't have one is because they lost one, they didn't have another one. And he took this kid apart and said, I'm gonna be gone an hour and a half. When I come back, there better be a rat guard on that number 1 line. And he got in the car and left. Actually, he was gone 3.5 hours. Came back, first thing he did was run over here and look, and they had a cat tied to the cleat with 10 feet of white line.
That's a good one.
That was one of my favorite ones. And that was JT High.
When the boat was at sea, do you have any special recollections of some of the patrols and missions that the boat went on over your time on board the vessel?
Yeah, I was particularly fond of the springboard. If you recall that was a trip to San Juan.
You might want to identify what springboard is for the crew, for the camera.
Well, usually in the spring, the submarine tender went to San Juan, Puerto Rico, and all the boats went with it that were outboarded or
Attached.
being attached to it. And it was, we did a lot of drills on the way and a lot of drills on the way back home, but while we were there, it was a good vacation.
Oh, so the crew had liberty in San Juan.
We definitely had liberty, yes.
Now, I noticed that you laughed when you said San Juan. Would you like to share for the camera why you laughed at when you said San Juan?
No, it was just a good time. And I was recalling some of those. Better left in the past.
Okay. I know the boat made a med cruise in 1969, 1970 time frame.
Yes, it was, we visited a lot of nice ports. We were in Greece, Spain, Italy, and if I'm not mistaken, that's the one we saw the Bob Hope show on the aircraft carrier. He brought the whole show over to one of the carriers, and the name escapes me at the moment. And we were able to go over on the carrier and watch the entire show. It was a USO extravaganza, and it was a good one. Ursula Andress was the hot
Right.
girl at the time, and she was there.
One of the things that I have not documented for our webpage and for this site is what sailors have to go through to be qualified for the
Well,
dolphins.
in order to be qualified, you first have to make a drawing of the systems. And that, if it's a hydraulic or water system or fuel system, that includes all the valves and their location. And you use colored pencils to differentiate different pressures, different temperatures or whatever. And then you take that drawing and you have someone teach you the system, some qualified person. Once he teaches you the system, they take you through the system. When they take you through the system and they're comfortable with your knowledge of it, they sign a qualification card for that particular system or compartment. And after you have done all the systems and all the compartments, you're taken through the boat with usually either the XO or the captain, sometimes the engineer. When I was on the Grayback, actually the captain took me through.
So you're telling me that each candidate, in order to get qualified to wear the dolphins, has to perform a final walkthrough, so it's kind of like a final exam.
That's correct.
Okay.
And everyone actually learns everybody else's job.
I also wear a pair of silver dolphins, as you know. And one of the things that I would like to add to your description of being qualified, you also have to drink those dolphins.
That's a fact. And
Would you describe what that process is?
well, I've seen a lot of them, but mine was particularly ugly. But there was an ice bucket, and I got my dolphins in Hawaii. I was on the West Coast at the time. They filled the ice bucket up with wine, beer, and just about every shot on the bar, little Tabasco sauce and a raw egg, and threw my dolphins in. The trick was to drink them all and catch the dolphins in your teeth, which I did, and everybody knew how to keep from. Your shipmates would not let you get sick or hurt in this incident, because there was ways to get rid of that alcohol real fast, and we did it. I didn't even mind the raw egg. As a matter of fact, I was that proud to have those dolphins.
I remember also an incident where the boat was doing an ORI, which is an ordnance readiness inspection, and you were back in maneuvering, and one of the fellows from squadron was evaluating us for ordnance readiness, and you were back in maneuvering, and would you sort of elaborate on what transpired in that scenario?
Inspecting officer threw a piece of paper on the deck and said, "This place is on fire." And I said, "No, it's not." He said, "This place is on fire. Put it out." I said, well, he wanted me to go through the whole. I said, "No, it's not." He said, "What's that say down there?" I said, "It says fire." And so I got a piece of paper and put water on it and wrote water and put it on the fire.
You wrote the paper on top of the word
Yeah,
fire. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that. So what transpired after that?
I think I had to talk to the XO.
But you did have to sound the alarm, and we
Oh,
had to
yes, I
establish-
did. We finally, there was one other incident, and I think it was Richard Bishop and I, and this was during an ORI. The squadron commander, who liked his drinks, we called him Liquid Lou, and I can't remember his real name. He came, we always had a fire in maneuvering, and we didn't have one at ORI, and we're on our way back in, and we could see through the sticks on the cubicle, the ladder up forward, and we saw him coming down. So we're looking through the separations in the sticks in the cubicle, and he had a smoke bomb in his hand. He was looking around. So we said, "Get the junior controlman up there, shut that hatch up there, and put this toolbox on it," which weighed about 150 pounds. then we closed the after hatch and moved our bench over it, which was really heavy. And he found a can down there, a number 10 tin can, pulled the pin on the smoke bomb, threw it in. I yelled, "Fire and maneuver in abandoned compartment," and we all jumped in the after torpedo room and dogged them in.
But what happened after that?
Well, that smoke, we cleaned it up for weeks. That stuff was everywhere, but I could hear him in there yelling at me through the dog down door. And he was yelling at me, and I think it was Richard Bishop was the one that was, him and I were involved in it.
What happened to you after that?
Nothing. In those days, it was a good joke and everybody enjoyed it.
Well, I also know that...
We went to All Stop, by the way. I rang up All Stop and yelled, "Abandoning maneuver."
I also remember, having been through it with you, periods in the shipyard. And talk a little bit about the types of things that happened to your gang and the vessel as we went through a yard period, refit, that kind of thing.
We did have a good report for him with him because we used the term "comshaw," which involved a lot of 5-pound cans of coffee. And if you went into a shipyard, you always ordered extra coffee because then you could get above and beyond. And we did have a good relationship because we did take care of their coffee messes and we took care of them. And some boats did not operate that way and they didn't get such a good shipyard refit out of it.
So in essence, we were exchanging the coffee for
extras.
Extra things
Extra
that
things.
the crew felt the boat needed.
Right, or nicety things that we were
Wouldn't
in the
normally-
budget.
Or we wouldn't normally have.
We wouldn't normally have.
Yes. I see. Is there anything that you would like to talk about that we haven't covered? Or any experience that you had on board the boat? Or any type of fun experience on top of all of those other things
Well,
that you would like to mention here? Here's your opportunity.
the one thing that impresses me is we never had a leak on the boat. We might have had a little flood here and there. The boat was a tight boat. The crew was a tight crew. And you can't ask for anything better. And it's unusual. In the 8.5 years I was on there, the crew had changed completely over. When I left, there was no one on board that was there when I got there. And the crew was still a very good, knowledgeable, friendly crew. Everybody got along. That's very unusual.
Really?
Well, I was on other boats that were good boats, and they don't have the rapport that we all have.
Well, I just want to state for the record that for the 2 years that I was on board with you, I thought you were an asshole.
And you were absolutely right.
Well, listen, I want to thank you for sitting down with me this morning and doing this interview. Anything else you want to say?
No, just that you're a good friend and a good shipmate, and I enjoyed doing this interview with you also.
Thank you, Billy. Thanks for doing this with me.
Okay.
And thank you very much.